Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another edition of the Freshman 15 College Football Podcast. And last week, we had shockwaves go through the NCAA with a stunning upset happening out west. And the axe came for somebody who definitely deserved it. So, Tyler, my dude, I'm not going to hold you too long, man. What is up tonight?
Not much. I'm gonna be celebrating what happened. We've been on him for I would say 2 years now, but it's been just progressively worse, and then three straight losses. We're gonna talk about it, I think, but yeah, let's get this thing going.
Yeah, man. So let's start off. So last week we had our Saturday spotlight. I'll kind of take the lead on this one. And the one that I focused on was Oregon and Indiana. And I was just saying with Indiana, they had to just prove it. They've kind of been swimming around the conference a little bit. Like they're like the shark circling the water. And we knew they were coming, but we didn't know if they could stand to a team like Oregon on the road. Lo and behold, they did. I talked about in the lead up, talked about the quarterbacks who really weren't the main focus of that game. It was really the defenses that kind of kept both teams in it. For Mendoza, he wasn't his best at all. He made some great throws, obviously, because he had that connection with Surratt. And Surratt's he's proving every single week he belongs amongst some of the best players. I think he is a guy that I see with a draft prospect. But he's playing really well, just kind of acclimates that conference coming from JMU to Indiana and playing the big boys in the Big Ten. He's showing out, but it was just their defense, man. And it's been proven with Scinetti week in, week out. They apply a lot of pressure to quarterbacks, and more as a freshman, or I guess redshirt freshman, it's a lot to kind of take in to handle. And they got the picks when they needed it. And they had the tip pass that decided the game, do two picks. And their player was big time was Isaiah Davis. What is that? Isaiah Davis?
Yeah, I think Isaiah Jones, maybe. I think that's
Isaiah Jones.
Isaiah Jones, number 46. If you guys are watching the highlights, number 46.
Yes. And also not just that, man. So I was talking to one of my colleagues at work, and I was saying that Oregon offense, it funnels to just two guys in the passing. Sadiq and DeCoy Moore combined for 6 catches, 70 yards. And in Sadiq's case, he didn't do anything at all. He wasn't impactful whatsoever. It's just them kind of doing it. I mean, again, Scinetti and Lenny are kind of similar guys with how they talk that talk. But him coming through going on the road to win that game, it's setting themselves up for the collision course down the line that we're looking at. And fingers crossed, I do want to see it. But them playing against Ohio State. And could they pull it off, get that Big Ten title, first one in 60 years?
Yeah, very possible. So, like you said, the quarterbacks weren't really the main thing. It was the defenses, but I think Hemby and Black took it over quite a bit for Indiana. That rushing attack is pretty good. Last year, we talked about there was that wheel that was going around. It showed like the defensive percentile for Indiana, and they were like maxed out on everything. And you can see that it's transitioned to this year as well. And that defense swarms you, and they can get to you with just 4 or 5 guys when they're able to do that. And then you're able to have, like you said, Isaiah Jones, that pick that sealed the game, sitting back there in zone, read that quarterback's eyes and stuff like that. They are a swarming defense. They contain Dante Moore really well, and they put the pressure on, and they when they get to you, they suffocate you, and they choked you out. And Oregon didn't have an answer for them at all.
Yeah, man. It's exciting to watch what they're doing. And you just wonder, and I'll talk about this later, but you wonder when they get more resources, how that changes once they become a destination. How does that change their dynamic when they add, your 4-star recruits, steady 3-star recruits? It's only going to get better.
Correct.
And then with your upset special, just remind me, who did you have last week?
So I did pick a USC to beat Michigan. We all saw how that turned out. It's basically King Miller. He broke off a couple big runs against Michigan, really put that game on skates late in the game. But Bryce Underwood is not what he's cracked up to be. Errant throws. I mean, he was 15 of 24 for 207 or something like that, but it wasn't anything spectacular. When you're watching the game, it's like overthrow, and he had a bad interception on an overthrow. And they couldn't get their running game going like they normally do. And usually USC, they struggle with the run. They're short up on the outside, but they usually struggle with the run. But they handled Michigan, who is a very good rushing team. I think they average like 250 a game. But they lock them down, and then you have that freshman quarterback trying to make up for something that's missing, and he just got it. And this is one that Lincoln Riley needed. We talked about it last week because he's lost these close games. Like last year, he lost to Michigan. They lost to Illinois. They lost to Minnesota. They lost to Wisconsin. Like you needed to come back and win this game, especially in the Coliseum. So, good for Lincoln Riley and USC on that one.
Yeah, man. Well, you know what? More on them in a second, actually, believe it or not. But I kind of flipped to my game, and I went to BYU. And I'll say this now because I was thinking about it going through these games for this week. I just don't believe BYU, just based on how they play, their style of play. And both teams, Arizona and BYU, they're really good passing defenses. And the game led to that, showed that they're going to go kind of back and forth. You have Arizona kind of falling back early in the game. They come back into it, but what both teams struggled to do was stop it. I wasn't expecting that at all. The running backs had some success running the ball. LJ Barton had well over 100 yards in the first half. That's kind of what happened. He watched the quarterbacks, who I think, even in the case of Fafita, who's now a third-year starter, he's still not putting it all together. And even Barrett Backmeyer, the same thing. But the pendulum swing in this game was Barrett Backmeyer running the football. That's the one thing I didn't account for, how well he run the football. And even the game going into overtime, and they had their chances. It's kind of funny. It's kind of like watching the Cowboys game last weekend where Arizona, they had their chances to put them away, but they couldn't do it. They just couldn't get that drive, or they couldn't make that play or get that stop. And even a chance in the overtime, but they fumbled the ball right there. I mean, it was there for the pick. They couldn't get the ball after the fumble by Backmeyer, and it backfired for them going to overtime against BYU, and they snuck away. And again, I don't think BYU is as good as they say they are. Even looking at that Big 12 conference, I still feel like they're not that good. It's just Arizona couldn't put them away, and that was the difference in the game. So I'm not a big guess this week, but I do think that they might be a bit of a dog here. But either way, shout out to BYU for getting that win, but I'm still looking at them sideways, though.
Yeah, so I think we're gonna slide into this hurt yourself. I'm going hurt yourself because it's got to be
We have to.
It's got to be Penn State. You go from you're talking about say 19 days ago, maybe 19 days ago they were right there in the national championship contender talk. They lose to Oregon, and then all of a sudden the wheels are falling off. UCLA, and then you lose to Northwestern, and it's the first team ever to lose games where they were favored by over 21 points. So I mean, it's absolutely insane. And if you're Penn State, what do you do? Like, you have to let James Franklin go, and it's tough because their quarterback got hurt. Drew Baller's hurt for the rest of the season. They're probably gonna lose both their running backs, I would assume. And so where do you go from here? Do you bring in like a guy like Curt Cignetti? Do you bring in a Matt Rule? Do you bring in, I don't know his name, but that cat from North Texas who has that offense rolling?
Oh, yeah.
Do you bring in him? Do you, someone that I would like to see there, he's been at a tenured school for a while. He always runs a good offense, but I want to see him jump up, and that would be Matt Campbell at Iowa State. I want to see him go to, I want to see him go there, but Manny Diaz from Duke, he was at Penn State before. Does he come back to Penn State? I think that might be the big one, but for me, we could talk about this some other time. But I do want to see Matt Campbell make that jump. I don't want him to be like Luke Fickell or Scott Frost, where you play really well at like the Iowa States of the world, but when you make that next jump up, where are you at with that? And like Curt Cignetti, like from him going from James Madison to Indiana, I think that sets a bar for every coach that comes into the Big Ten now. Like, you can't just. Basically, and the SEC too, because Kirby Smart did it. Lane Kiffin, he's been everywhere, but he's done it with Ole Miss, and then you got Curt Cignetti and stuff like that. So Penn State's in a really bad spot right now because they don't spend NIL money. They don't really have anything. They don't have. They're going to lose their quarterback, and they're going to lose their only weapons they have in running back. So they're kind of in a sticky situation. And without a coach, and they're probably going to lose all those recruit commits too. So,
it already started.
Yeah,
it already started.
Yeah. So the hurt yourself is Penn State, definitely.
100%, man. And the thing is, you've made light of this for a while on the podcast, probably going into even last year, not before that. And its sticking point has always been the record. Again, a record of 104 and 45. to some other school, that's not bad. No one's tripping about that. You do that at Michigan State, no one cares. I mean, nationally, we don't care. It's a pat on the back, great job, whatever. At UCF, absolutely. But at Penn State, that's not really good. And then the biggest part of this, you're 4-21 against top 10 teams. And the worst part about this is the rivals, the big dogs, Michigan, Ohio State, 4-16. It's just not going to cut it.
Right.
And I think that was the thing when you kind of saw them, and you talked about it too. Hey, they're coming in at number 2 going into the season. You're like, nah, man, knowing their history, like it's fugazi. It's not a real rating.
Yeah,
they're paper lions with that. They're going to fold, and they have. And again, the loss of Oregon, I blew it off. No big deal. You lose to Oregon. Okay, cool. UCLA, it's a little weird.
500 yards total offense in that game. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, and it's how they're losing. Like they're getting trounced in their staple of defense.
Yeah. You bring in Jim Knowles, who coached at Ohio State national championship team last year. Like you see how good that Ohio State team is, and it can't translate to Penn State, who historically always has a good defense. And it's just like, what is going on?
So is Northwestern the team that got Scott Frost fired too?
No. I think so.
I think it was. I think it was.
Yeah.
They're just, I mean, it's just hilarious, man. But just, you called it, that being a staple of them, the defense not showing up, and what they're going to lose. Drew Aller already lost for the season. Who, let's be fair here, he wasn't maximizing Drew Aller either.
Correct.
He wasn't really maximizing him or the running backs at all, or anything that they had that wasn't being maximized. And that's a big part of it. And you talked about the names that could replace him. Because I wrote my names down, though. I wrote Alex Golesh at USF. That I think is kind of he might be shooting for the stars for him to get that job. Great job at UCF, but I don't know that's happening. I'm sorry, USF. I think that's happening. Like to Signetti, Brent Price, Georgia Tech maybe, but that's probably not going to fly based on how he runs his offense. But yeah, my guy has definitely been Matt Campbell and Kenny Diaz. That's another name. Yeah. And just so we're clear here too, they have to eat $49 million of this contract, the buyout. However, there is offset language that says if he lands a new job, that he'll offset the cost. No money paid out. I don't know how true that is. If that's going to make sense. If he takes a job somewhere at, I don't know, Louis State or something like that, I don't think it's going to offset those costs. But that's the idea that if it's a new job, he lands on his feet, it'll offset the cost. If I'm James Franco, I'm not working.
Right. Yeah, you're collecting that money.
$49 million. I'm not working at all, man. I'm sitting there and I'm chilling. And they're going to have to feel that sting too, because it goes both ways. So, yeah, I mean, undoubtedly, man, Penn State, they screwed themselves royally. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I think a team that he might go to before we get to the next segment could be Michigan State.
Head coach?
Yeah.
Coordinator?
Head coach. They need one because you think you remember back in like the 2010s, they were big brother to Michigan. Michigan was down during the Rich Rodriguez years and the Mark D'Antonio years. Those were, especially those latter years, they were big brother to Michigan, and now it's kind of it's fallen off since Connor Cook left. But yeah, it's been a downward spiral for them too. So I predict him to land on his feet, and I think it'll be a major program that's still rebuilding. So Michigan State could be a big one.
Possibility. Now, speaking of, because this is a great segue to this week. So for me, my Saturday spotlight, and there's no way that's the same. And this game is not being looked at, and only someone like me cares. I'm pretty sure only I would care. But I'm going through like the list of games, what games I think stood out, and this one popped up to me for some odd reason. That was Duke and Georgia Tech.
Okay. And
the reason why I'm looking at this because Tech is their ranks, right? They're ranked to be important, but they are underdogs. They're the underdogs. And it's funny because we have Diaz and Pry. I think they take the Penn State job if offered, and they're playing against each other. And here's the thing with Tech. They're going to run the ball. They're going to do their run scheme, but Diaz has really got to be playing well. And they're not a very big front. At the linebacker level, we're talking about guys like 5'11", 200 pounds. It's multiple front, so best 11 guys. Despite being small, though, they are very stingy against the front. They're not going to run on at all. Like, I think you average like 3.5 yards to carry, 3.2 yards to carry. Like they're very, very good stuff to run, despite having small linebackers on their fronts. But we know that the main guy is right. It's King. King run the football, and if they can do that with their running backs, that's the way to win. However, if you get them to pass the ball, 3rd 6, 3rd 7, you got a chance. And they got a pretty good edge rusher out there. Jake Anthony, I believe, 6'6", 250, long arms, bend the corner. If they could somehow manage to stop that running, get the pressure, they win this game, big time, man. Otherwise, we protect to keep rolling. But I just feel like this is a game that we can kind of keep our eyes on as to what's happening in the ACC and maybe what's happening to these coaches. These coaches now kind of use this platform to kind of make their statement to get that Penn State job. So I'm checking out Duke and Tech this weekend.
Yeah, so I think the one that I'm going to choose, I think a lot of people probably have it certain. There's a lot of good games on this weekend, by the way. A lot of ranked games. But the one for me,
I know what it is.
USC Notre Dame.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, USC. They're finally ranked again after everything they've been through, and it turns out Marcus Freeman has figured out how to use his running backs again. And CJ, like Jeremiah Love. Last time we seen him, he went off for 4 touchdowns in the first half of a game, and he's the best running back in the nation when he's used properly, and he. Like we just talked about, USC does struggle up against the run, and we know, like historically, Notre Dame loves to run the football, especially when you have Jeremiah Love, and then they use the screen game, they use like those Texas route running backs, and they extension of the run game, and if USC is not on point, I'm not gonna say it's gonna be like a shootout because it could easily turn into a slobber knocker, and usually when that kind of happens, the team with the better up front usually wins those games because they're going to wear you out. And so that's why it's fun to see, because you're going to have that. You have, what's his name? Lemon. And then what's the other USC? What's that?
Makai Lemon.
Yeah, Makai Lemon. And what's the other receiver's name? They have another one.
I got to double check. But I know that their quarterback is 2 in passing yards. Lemon is 4 in passing yards. And I think Wayman, the running back, is 5th in rushing yards. Like they're a pretty potent offense, man, across the board. They're pretty good. I've been looking at them.
Yeah. When they get smacked in the mouth a little bit from a Notre Dame team that they look kind of slow at the beginning of the year, like we talked about, but then you come back and you look, say, who were their 2 losses against? Texas A&M, who was ranked, and Miami, who was ranked. So you kind of like, maybe they're not as bad as we thought they were, and they were close to winning both of those games. So, Notre Dame, a lot of people say, hey, they got 2 losses. Why are they ranked so high? Well, we're about to see why, because they're going to take on basically like a top 5 offense in the country and see what they can do with them. So it's going to be the typical hatred USC Notre Dame game, but that's what makes it fun, because I think it's going to be a slobber knocker, because both those running backs might go off.
Yeah, man, and I think looking at USC, they just have the firepower. And when I look at a team like Notre Dame, and the only reason I've been kind of skeptical of Notre Dame is that the 2 losses is how they lost. It's demanding the trenches, playing up front, playing physical up front, and they got a little bit. That's the one thing. But I feel like with USC, there's balance on both sides now. Makai Lemon is a great receiver. He's got a lot of talent. He's the ideal player you want to see. He's quick, he's fast, has great ball skills. Alba doing a great job, but they can also run the football a little bit too. And I think playing a rivalry game at home, it's unpredictable. It's a long-time rival. It's very unpredictable. Lincoln is being better out of his defense as well. I just think they can make for a nice back and forth exchange, back and forth fight. I'm not going to say that's going to be, in the actually, it could go to overtime. Could happen, right? So while the game regulation might be, say, 24, you can get into OT now. We're talking about 38s, 38. I just think that these teams, they're going to go kind of back and forth. And USC's got enough guys on defense that make plays as well. Eric Gentry at linebacker, Bishop Fitzgerald, who's all over the field. I just think they can do enough to kind of pull this team into a back and forth shootout. And I think that USC, they have enough firepower to keep it going. You can somehow stop the run. Big challenge, big ask, but like you said last week, right? They were able to kind of slow down Michigan. If they could just get a little bit of traction stopping the run, maybe these 3rd 7, 3rd 6, 3rd 5s. If you can do that, I think you got a shot, man. I feel like they might win, man. I'm going with USC for the upset this week.
Yeah, USC, they really have to control the the errant passes because he had two really bad interceptions, I think, this past week. Especially one where he's scrambling around and you just throw the ball out of bounds. And then he throws it down the sideline, it's intercepted. And you're like, well, if Michigan had a competent quarterback, they're right back in that game. So it's just one of those things where, Notre Dame would take advantage of that. A young Michigan team and a crappy head coach in Michigan, they don't take care of that situation. So, but yeah, that's my game of the week. So, what's your upset for the week?
It was this one.
Oh, is this
USC.
one? Okay, so
USC.
all right, I rolled mine. So we see this team get screwed twice this year. And I think you know who I'm talking about. And I'm going to take the Auburn Tigers over Missouri Tigers. Just because they've been screwed so many. Like they should have. So after they're driving in that first half, and then Jackson Arnold scores a touchdown. They call it not a touchdown, right? You know what game I'm talking about? Auburn, Georgia. Yeah. So he scores that touchdown. They call it back, not a touchdown. And then they get Georgia gets 80 yards of penalty to go down and score a touchdown at the end of that half. And I'm just like, and then, Auburn, they're just shell shocked. They don't do anything. They had the same thing happen to them early in the year against Oklahoma. The rest came out and apologized. One was that interception or whatever, then that bad play. So you're kind of screwed. So now you get this retribution against the top SEC team. I think they're ranked number 16. Sorry, they're ranked 16. So you put up a dogfight against Georgia, who's a much bigger team than Missouri. Everyone thinks they are much better than Missouri. So I think Hugh Freeze, Jackson Arnold, and them, I think they take care of Missouri this weekend. Auburn Tigers over Missouri.
At home. And what's funny is that, so they play against A&M in September, lost on the road by 6.
Yeah.
And they got screwed against Oklahoma again on the road, same situation. Yeah. So against these two top teams, these quality teams, they've lost by an average of less than 6 points. Or 5.5, whatever the case is, 6.5, whatever. I mean, it's right there, and the defense is playing, and that's the biggest problem. They're playing with lights out football on defense too,
right?
And they're being shafted by the referees. I'm feeling this one, man. That's a nice call. And it's smart, man.
Not to go on a tangent here, but I cannot stand watching Kirby Smart coach on the sideline. It makes me mad. He's running out on the field, fake calling timeout, saying he's clapping. He's in the ref's face after every call that doesn't go his way. I'm just I just want to turn it off when he's on because it infuriates me. It literally makes me mad to watch a Georgia game. So I don't know. I can't stand him. He's one of those coaches that I detest. Even watching him play. Yeah, Jim Harbaugh was better than him. I just can't stand the constant in the ref's face, almost grabbing the ref and yelling at him. I'm just dude, just stand on the sideline. I know you show emotional. You show emotion. Just control it a little bit because it's affecting everything else. And it just makes me mad because it seems like when he gets that way, the game tends to go their way a little bit, and it's just kind of infuriating.
It's conditioning. That's what it is. It's you condition the refs to kind of see it from your perspective, and that's a lot of coaches. That's also the influence of these conferences too.
Yeah.
Because, I still don't understand why we have referees for conferences. I've never understood that.
Right.
You have a Big Ten ref, an ACC ref. I've never understood the purpose of that because now you're forming these connections, these relationships, or even these one-sided relationships with coaches that only see these conference games. That's not football, to me at least. It's just building this familiarity of what they're going to do, what they're going to call. And I'm not really feeling that either. I think that's messed up. But for Auburn to hang on for that win, man, that would be a big one, man. And amongst other games that are on the slate today, this weekend, we have Louisville and Miami, which I expect Miami to win that game. Nebraska and Minnesota. Yeah, Nebraska probably wins that game. How are you feeling about LSU and Vandy?
Yeah, I seen that. Vandy's a 2.5-point favorite, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is they're in Vanderbilt.
Nussmeier, though, isn't it? You think?
Nah, I don't know if I'm a bet man, I'm not touching that game because it's one of those ones that might go either way. But yeah, I literally don't know because we talked about it a couple weeks ago. Vandy's playing good. We know that Alabama's playing better than they thought we were. They thought we were at the beginning of the season. So Vandy might be the real deal. So I don't know. It's hard to tell.
There's one game here.
Because
I'm terrified.
these SEC teams are like this, and it's you don't know.
That's okay. So to that, I'm not gonna call it. I'm not saying, but there's certain games where and you know what I'm talking about. You play slips too. We're like, oh, she's trying this game, and maybe I should. The one game that I saw, I was like, man, I really should think about this game, and it was A&M traveling to Arkansas, and I'm like, man, could Arkansas? Because every year somebody doesn't get snuck.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
some of them doesn't get snuck. And I feel like maybe A&M gets stuck on the road against Arkansas. It's kind of a, one score spread. Conference opponent.
Yeah.
Could it happen? Or could it be Arizona State? Does Texas Tech finally lose on the road to Arizona State with Levitt back and healthy? Hey, look at Arizona State, though. Like, even the team they played against. And let me just go to the schedule real quick. But looking at Arizona State this season, they're undefeated, except for they lost on the road, which I called, we call that game. Mississippi State, and they lost. Okay, but since then they recovered just fine. Levy gets hurt. They lose on the road to Utah because the quarterback play was so terrible. I think they're better than what they are. I think they could score in a bunch of. If Levitt's available, Tyson's healthy. I think Tyson to me is one of the best receivers of this class coming up too. Maybe they can kind of get into a shootout, make it a little bit muddy, and maybe Texas Tech at home. I don't know, man. A lot of games to me this weekend are kind of. They got my attention.
Yeah, Tennessee, Alabama. That's a big one. Yeah. Trying to think of all the. Because when you're trying to pick like the spotlight of the week, it's hard to tell because, a lot of these are like you said USC, Notre Dame, Alabama, Tennessee, and it's just like which one do you choose? So.
It's tough, man. It's tough, man. And I like Tennessee, but I don't know if I trust Aguilar on the road against Alabama.
Yeah.
No. And he's been kind of shaky as of late, too. And again, I don't mean to pick on BYU again, but does Utah kind of get that win on the road? I know that's a big rivalry game as well. So, yeah, man. And Utah is favored also. Again, I'm not the biggest believer in BYU. I just feel like somebody's getting snuck this weekend, man.
Ole Miss, Georgia. Ole Miss, Georgia's this weekend, too. Yeah.
That's a huge game.
Big implications. Yeah. I think that's the only really big. Oklahoma, South Carolina.
No.
Oklahoma's only 5.5-point favorite.
Yeah, but I don't think so, man.
I'm just saying that's the one that could sneak you because Matier, he definitely wasn't healthy against Texas.
No, he rushed back.
Yeah, he rushed back, so that might be one to watch. Like you said, LSU, Vanderbilt, Washington, Michigan. Washington could stick a fork in Michigan, and I would love it.
But you know what? You say that, so you see him last game of the season. So, for me, looking at this, man, I would say if I'm picking my upsets, Utah, yes, over BYU. I'm gonna ride with USC, man. I just think that they can turn the season around if they can beat on Notre Dame. And again, we're still trying to evaluate Notre Dame based on the 2 losses and the wins since then.
Yep.
But if USC can win this game, it changes everything for them. Even them trying to backdoor themselves maybe in the playoff. I think it's still a long shot, but they can kind of backdoor themselves if they got a chance. And again, not Kentucky and Texas. No, I don't think so.
No.
And as a long shot, I'm saying maybe Arizona State and Texas Tech. But other than that, if I was a spotlight one, it's going to be that Utah and BYU for sure.
Yeah, that would be the one. And just to touch back on something we talked earlier, Iowa is a 2.5-point favorite over Penn State.
Unbelievable.
Iowa. Total points in that game is 40 and a half.
Yo, there's just no hope left, man.
Yeah.
There's just no hope left.
I honestly love it.
So, yeah, well, man, I'm sure you do. So, all right. So here's the one thing that I'll say about that is the precedent of a guy being in the semifinal to now no longer being even in the running anymore. How does that change the landscape of how teams look at their coaches? And mind you, the price tag of 49 mil is pretty high.
Yeah.
Does that set a precedent in a good way or a bad way for college football?
I think it sets a precedent in it's almost like I guess it'd be a good way, because if you're going to select a coach, you got to be more selective about it and really look at like his resume. Because, like I said, Kurt Cignetti he's the standard bearer. He comes from James Madison of all places, comes into the Big Ten. His first year, he makes crazy waves, and now he's sitting in the top 3 spot in the nation. With the Big Ten sitting out in front of him, and that's your standard bearer. Marcus Freeman did it with Notre Dame. Obviously, that's your standard bearer, and it's other teams have tried it. Mike Elko and Texas A&M. That might come to fruition too. They might make the playoffs, but it's those guys that are proven, but you have to trust them to make the next step. And I think that's the standard now. You can't wallow around for 3 or 4 years waiting for your guys to get ready. It's I performed well and I'm ready to take the next step, and that's why I think someone like like Matt Campbell would be good for Penn State. But that's a good. I think that's a good high standard, is because you look at a Marcus Freeman, you look at a Kurt Cignetti, and you say okay, and I think with like, for example, like USC jumping to the Big Ten, I think Lincoln Riley gets a little grace with that, because USC was down and they've struggled, but he was definitely on the hot seat at the beginning of this year, and he still might be, but he was proven in Oklahoma, ready to take the next step at USC, and it hasn't come to fruition. But we see that he is on the hot seat, so it's those guys that they're ready to prove themselves and they know that they're going to do it.
So I will say this though, there's impatience, and I think Cignetti and Franklin are kind of on the same tether, just for 2 different reasons. In Cignetti's case, coming into Indiana, and again, of all places, Indiana, with the guys he brought over from JMU, doing that and doing it the way that he has, because he's not pulling in this NIL money. It's not raining into Indiana. That's not going to happen. And in Franklin's case, it's like, okay, yes, we don't pay any NIL money, but our pedigree is our pedigree, our standard is our standard, and we have these expectations that are way up here. You got to meet them. I think they're on the same tether, because what it does is it puts pressure on guys that are not doing so well with what they have to work with, i.e., say Norvell at Florida State. Like, okay, like there was a bit of a reprieve. Now they're going, back to where Clemson, exact same thing. It's just like these Sharon Moore at Michigan, like, and it's harder, I think, for Moore in his case, and he's a special case, but stepping in after Harbaugh, it's a big shadow and it's big shoes to fill, and they're not doing it. So even him, it's like, hey, you know what? We tried this out. He's a first-time guy. It doesn't work. We wash our hands and we start over again. And who is the next guy? That's why I think if I was Michigan, I'm running to beat Penn State for Matt Campbell. That's what I would do if I was Michigan. Like that's your way to do it. I just don't see it happening. And again, for Underwood, great prospect. I'm sure he has a lot of potential to see through, but the results aren't coming, and he's not developing as a passer, and they're not getting it done for him. So if I was to make that decision, I'm like, okay, I'm going to kind of move this way. But you said it before, man. Guys have proven themselves time and time again in different spots. Maybe even Shane Beamer wants to get in the mix too. Just say, hey, you know what? Chalk it up. We tried it in South Carolina. It's not working for me. It's just not. I'm not in the right environment here. I'm not in the right place. I don't have the right resources, and I'm in a conference where I've become the Vanderbilt of my conference. So maybe that's what it is. I think it's a good thing. I do think it's a good situation where the pressure is on from both sides. And if you don't have the resources, go somewhere where there is. And if you do have them, you got to perform. And that's just what it is, man. That's what I'm starting to see too. So I think it's good, man. And then you have a guy like Ryan Day, kind of like Sharon Moore, kind of stepping out of the shadow of a legend, got his ring, got the monkey off his back, and now everything's all good. So go figure that.
Yep.
Do I have to do any last thoughts before we wrap the show up?
No, like I said, a lot of good games on this weekend, and a shout out to my BGSU Falcons for coming back from 21 down to win 28-21. That was a pretty cool games to watch. So it's right here on ESPNU, so it's fun to watch. But yeah, a lot of good football games on this weekend. So go out and enjoy it.
Absolutely, guys. And for my dude Tyler Moore, I'm LP Cruz. This has been the Freshman 15 College Football Podcast. Peace.
Peace.